Okay, so let's look at some looping strategies we can employ in Ableton Live. What do we mean by looping? Well, the sort of bare minimum definition would be a sort of live or real-time capture and reuse of some kind of cyclical musical material. So that means we have to capture it without breaking the performance. And we also are going to reuse it in some form. Now, looping is associated with a number of common implications and augmentations to this basic definition. So we might include the idea that loops can be stacked or overdubbed. So we can have cyclical musical material, which we can then add to in some way. The loops themselves can be manipulated, their volumes changed or timbre changed, reversed or sped up or slowed down. And the common use of looping is that you actively create material that's going to be used later as some form of accompaniment. We can use Emerson's terms of local things that are created under your hand at that time, and then the field, a sort of musical context, as if we're building a backing track live and then using it. And there can be multiple loops or loop stacks, if we consider overdubbing, that can run independently and also be manipulated independently. So with these goals, we have in fact many solutions in Ableton Live, each with particular affordances and challenges. So let's explore a few of them here. Most simply, we can use delay, a longish delay, as a form of looping. So if musical material comes in and comes back later, we're fulfilling the basic definition of looping and can make beautiful music that way. So here we have a single audio track, and I've set it to the input with my guitar. And the reason we can hear it is that I've got monitors set in. I'm going to just use this as an open channel, so we don't need to arm it or anything. It's just an open track that constantly receives the guitar. So how do we do looping with just delay? First, we need to add our delay, so it's under Audio Effects, Delay and Loop Delay. I'm just going to use the standard default one. And here we have it coming in. Now, right now, if I play a note, we'll get a series of echoes. They're set to 3 semi-quavers at 85 BPM. I'm going to put them up so they enter the sort of more looping realm rather than echo realm. Have them feed back almost infinitely and have them about as loud as my guitar. So if I play a chord now, and that works great. We can even have the 2 channels left and right at different tempi. I'm having this at 8 and 16. So now if I play one note, you hear it separated. What about manipulating? Well, this has been set at repitch, so if I change the tempo, it will suddenly kick in. Which is quite fun. If you don't want that, then you can set this to fade or jump to the new pitch definitions. But if you set up tempos to be proportional, you can get modulations coming out of this. It's so super simple and effective, and even with just within this delay unit, we can have a ping pong device and have really beautiful textures that emerge from this. Now remember, this is audio, so it can be subject to all sorts of effects before and after. And should we wish to, we have different instruments. We could have a guitar going into this, but also, let's say, another instrument. I'll throw in something like a piano. Now if we want this this piano to go into that delay, then it's possible for us to put this delay on a return track. I'll put it on, turn this reverb off, I'll put it on return track A. So now what I'll do is send piano coming in here, guitar coming in here, and that being sent to this long delay. Endless ways you can do this as a primary, or sort of as a primary or additional strategy in your live sets. What's simple and wonderful about this is that you don't need a click or time reference, because your first event will give you the time that you require. But since we have a time reference and we're using a delay which is synced to it, it means that any elements that we choose to have or introduce can be time synced to those loops. So if we just take some kind of beat, that'll do. Everything will sync up beautifully. So another approach to looping, and one that's central to Ableton Live's design, is the session view and the grid matrix. These essentially present a series of loops. These clips are cyclical in nature, can be added to, and configured in really powerful ways. So let's look at it in principle. I have a simple time reference here, a little drum groove, and each of these slots can occupy a clip which will loop by default. It allows us to have many different instruments at the same time, and on each track a selection of loops to choose from. So for this, it's ideal to have some kind of launchpad push or way of getting to these slots. You can map them, but ideally having a grid like a push to really helps. So if we set this to session view, we'll see that the push represents the matrix in the session view here. This will be the same with the launchpad and other devices, which allows us to start and stop various clips. So how about looping? Well, here we'll want to arm a certain track so that we can hear it and record. We can do so by pressing the red arm button, or soon to be red arm button here, or holding down here. You'll see that the clips light up, ready to be recorded. When they start and stop recording can be quantized under this global value here, which is now set to 1 bar. Sometimes you might want it as another setting, but we'll keep that for now. So now, because it's armed, I should be able to hear a pad. Which means if I can hear it, I can play along, but when I want to record, I hit one of these clips. So ready to record. And we've captured it. And we can do the same with any other line that we want to. And just continue however you want to. And drop them out if you want to. We can even overdub and stack within these loops when we're working with MIDI. That is the session record button here, which allows us to add extra layers. Okay, so you can see how that looping works. The next challenge is audio. Here we can't loop within a track, but we can do something just as powerful. Let's say we wanted to set up multiple guitar inputs. So the way we do that is we could simply add a track, as before, linked to our guitar. So I'll have it here, we'll call it guitar. Now, if we want to hear the guitar track, again, we'll set it to monitor in, and we can keep this open just to give us a basic guitar sound. If we want to create loops for it, then our choices are we could take the same input, or we can feed one from here. I'll take the same input and I'll turn the monitor to off. But here I want these ready to record. And the way we can do that is simply arm it to record. And this we can call guitar loop A. Bit of noise on my guitar there, never mind. So we have guitar loop A here. That means we're ready to loop material on there. So I can play. And when I want to, I can hit a recording clip. I can record a clip in. And I can record alternatives here, but if I want extras, I can simply duplicate these tracks, rename them appropriately, and when playing guitar we want quick access to them, so we ideally would like to have them all armed, ready to go. You'll notice if you click, only one appears, and that's because ARM exclusive is written here. We can override that by command clicking or turning off that option there, which means now we've got 4 layers of loops ready to go. Conventionally, looping is done on a looper pedal or device, and Ableton Live has a device which mimics this and has wonderfully powerful features. So let's look at it now. Again, I've got guitar coming in here with monitor in, so I hear it always. I'm going to put on that looper device, which is found under Audio Effects, Delay and Loop, and then Looper. Or you can simply Command F, type Looper, and it'll appear. I'll just again go to the default one. What this shows here is how this will operate. One thing that you'll notice is that there's this big button here, and this is a super useful multi-purpose button which emulates that single pedal you'll see on some looper pedals. So this button starts recording, can stop recording, can shuffle through the 4 main modes, which are recording, overdubbing, playback, and stopping. At the moment, this is set to record as many bars as we like and then go to overdub mode. We can change this to be a fixed number of bars or to go straight back to playback, but we'll leave it like this for now. The challenge that we'll set ourselves here is that we won't have a click reference. What we want to do is our first loop to create our time frame, and then anything else that we add will sync to that. So I need this good to go. Now I'll be playing guitar, so it's quite hard to hit this while playing. If I had a MIDI pedal set up, then I could map this to here, but right now I'm just going to use my keyboard, computer keyboard, and just map it to this symbol here. It kind of limits what I can play for the first loop, but that's okay. So what will happen is I can hit this key and it'll start recording, and when I hit it again it'll stop recording and immediately go into overdub mode and set our global tempo. So if I play, I'll do something with an open string. Here we go. Reverse it. And overdub on top of that. Drop the octave. And back up. Finally, let's look how we can incorporate the looper in more of a timeline so that we have more hands-free control and we can create more complex looping arrangements. Okay, so let's just do a very miniature project to get the concepts across. So here I have my same guitar and looper, and I've also got something that will generate a beat. It's basically a click track. The idea here is that instead of using the session view, we'll use the arrangement view, which will allow us to have more of a timeline of events. And in our case, we can have the looper change automatically at various positions. For example, at bar 5, we could have the looper, I'm going to set this to automation, looper, and state. State is how the looper is behaving. And at bar 5, we want the looper to not stop, but start recording. We'll record for 4 bars, and then we'll have it go to overdub mode. Now we'll go to play mode, then to overdub mode here. Then we'll have it stop. 4 bars later we'll go into overdub mode. Then what we'll do is go to record, overdub, and play. And at this point we'll have a little bit of a freak out. I will make this reverse just at this point here. Reverse and reverse back again. And finally we'll stop here. I'm not sure what's going to happen exactly, but if I remember those things, but let's give it a go. Okay, so here we go. So there are 4 approaches, and I presented them as simply as I can, but there are countless options and levels of complexity you can engage with these, and of course they can combine. Some things to consider along the way is how we establish and access the grid and even manipulate it. You notice some of these devices like the looper will change the pitch if you change the tempo, whilst MIDI won't. And you can embrace, avoid, or engage with these in various ways. Also, we should be aware that the nature of looping kind of leads to a very additive way of making music. We stack loop upon loop upon loop, and we also tend to do so in a binary nature, so things are twice as long or half as long as previous loops. And this additive and binary nature of looping can be hard to deal with sometimes and a little bit tiresome to listen to. So we should be able to unwrap loops and explore various options. Finally, there's a balance here between improvisation and composition, and what it feels like to loop and the listener experience. We should be aware of all of these in order to make the most of this wonderful art form.